Hello everyone, welcome to one more episode of Nilanjana's exclusive English lessons. And in this video, we're going to talk about how to write a narrative essay. And of course, the three most important things that you should never do in your narrative composition. So, what is the first thing? The first thing is never write a very big introduction. Now, when I am checking the papers, this is what I find, that students are writing a page-long introduction, and by the time the student goes to the second page, the examiner is wondering that when the essay is going to start. So never do that. It really makes a person feel bored reading such a long introduction. Keep it short and crisp. Remember that an introduction should never be more than 10 sentences. Okay, by the second paragraph you should actually start narrating whatever you want to express. Okay, the next thing is never tell your reader but show. Now, what do I mean by that? Never tell your reader but show. This means that when you are conveying something, instead of just writing it directly, like for example, I was happy. Okay, if you want to write I was happy, how are you going to express this in a different way? Okay, so what you can do is, instead of just telling, this is like you are telling I was happy, what you can say is, my heart felt like a butterfly, spirited and joyous, ready to embark on a new adventure. This is where you are showing how you feel when you are happy. So never be too direct and simple, that just telling and expressing yourself as I was happy. Okay, and the third thing, never just narrate events. Of course, when you are narrating a composition, when you are telling what you want to say, you have to express and give details of a series of events. But here, you also have to convey your emotions. This means you have to express your feelings. With every situation that you are describing, try to give a statement which also expresses your feelings. Always remember that when you're choosing a narrative composition, never choose something which is uninteresting. Narrative writing is never about uninteresting experience. Whatever you are narrating has to be interesting as well as colorful. Okay, so these are the things that you have to remember. So how are you going to write a narrative essay? Okay, now what is the word limit usually? The word limit is for grades of 8th, 9th and 10th, it is 300 to 350 words. Usually within this word limit, you can write a beautiful essay. So let's begin. What is the meaning of the word narrate? Of course, you're writing a narrative composition. Let me first ask you, do you really know what is the meaning of the word narrate? Yes, many of you might be knowing. So I want you to write the answer in the comment section. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to tell you the answer. But right now, please write in the comments that what is the meaning of the word narrate. A narrative composition is an account of your real or imaginary experience of the main character. Real or an imaginary experience. Most of the time in a narrative composition, I is the protagonist, means the event is happening with you. But also it is possible that this can be written even in the third person, something which is happening with another person. And this is more like a story. As I've mentioned that this is more like a story, then of course you need to have those elements which are also present in story writing. So the first element that is present, which is a mandatory thing in story writing, what is that? Yes, it is the setting. The setting, or by what I mean by setting is the place and the time. The next is the main character. The main character, of course, is, if you are the protagonist, you are the main character. But with that, you also have to include 2 or 3 characters maximum, not more than that. The third, and of course, the very, very important part is there has to be a problem in your story. Otherwise, how is going to be interesting, right? Every problem brings, some element of thrill and adventure. So remember to include a problem, a little bit of complication in the story, which will keep the readers hooked to your narrative composition. And if there is a problem, there has to be a climax. What is climax? This is when the action is at its peak. When something terrible happens, the last part of your story, when all excitement is at its peak, that is the climax. Finally, there is a solution when things get resolved. And of course, you will end your composition with a conclusion, a message which can also be a moral to the readers. Usually, this conclusion is a reflective message, the feelings that you experience after going through the adventure or whatever you're narrating. So there is a kind of a reflective note at the end. Remember that the tense, when you're writing a narrative composition, you're narrating an event which is already over. So it has to be in past tense. And the narration style will be subject plus the second form of the verb. These two are also extremely important. Why? Because I have seen students, they continuously mix up tenses. So remember to be consistent with your tense. And if you are not very sure how to be consistent, there is also a video where I have, specially explain how to be consistent with your tenses while writing a composition. So today's sample composition that we are going to write is, this is the topic, think of a time when you found yourself in an embarrassing situation. Narrate how you got into that situation, how you dealt with it, and the lesson that you have learned from it. Okay, this is a question which I have taken from the practice paper, and let's do this composition. I hope all of you are with me. You can take a notepad and a pen, and of course, keep on writing. I have given you a sample. That doesn't mean that I have given you the best composition. You can also write better than me, but this is how I have written. And let me know what else you want to add or what other twists that you want to give in the story. And yes, you know that if you are writing a composition, you have to maintain this introduction, body, and conclusion. And in my last video, when I was explaining to you about descriptive writing, I hope those who have listened to it carefully also must have learned that whenever you write a composition, remember the word power. So what is power? I repeat, it's your planning, organizing, writing, editing, and revising. So with these two things in mind, let us begin the composition. Now you are narrating an embarrassing situation. What is an embarrassing situation? Those who don't know, for them, an embarrassing situation is when you are feeling uncomfortable. Okay, for some reason you are feeling uncomfortable. That is what I mean by an embarrassing situation. Something which doesn't go as per your wish. You feel extremely shy and you feel out of place, like a fish out of water. So you have learned a new idiom today, fish out of water. So this is how I have given the introduction. It all began when I had to rush to Kolkata to attend a wedding ceremony. This is the introductory line. You're giving a little bit of introduction. My parents had already left earlier and I couldn't join them as my internal exams were going on. However, once the exams were over, my parents booked my ticket and asked me to come over to Kolkata. I was excited to travel for the first time alone, as well as apprehensive. That was the first time I was traveling by air. So the last part of the first paragraph gives a glimpse, a trigger in the mind of the reader that probably your embarrassing experience is centered around this event, traveling by air. So you leave it at the end and hook the reader to read beyond the first paragraph. And a new word, if you have come across apprehensive, this means that you are a little scared. You have a little mixed feeling of little fear, little doubt. That is called apprehension. So let's move on to the second paragraph. Let's begin with the second paragraph. After the security check, I grabbed a cup of coffee and waited for the boarding. Suddenly, I felt I had grown up. Most of the time, I kept myself busy in taking selfies as I wanted to flood my social media with stories about my solo travel. Solo travel means when you are traveling all alone. A deep voice announced that the boarding was on. I took my luggage and walked towards the gate. The air hostess greeted me with a warm smile, and I made myself comfortable on the seat next to the window. The air hostess instructed me to fasten the seat belt. Soon the plane sped on the runway, ready to take off. As it got airborne, I felt a strange sinking feeling. I held my breath in fright. Such abnormal feeling was unknown to me. My ears pained and I screamed for help. That was the last day of my life. These were the thoughts that flashed through my mind. So, this is the second paragraph that here you are telling that after the security check, you grabbed a cup of coffee and you were taking your selfies, and in the meantime, the boarding was on, and slowly and slowly everything was over. You boarded the plane, you sat, but the moment the plane sped on the runway means when the plane started moving, and as it rose, you had a strange sinking feeling. So this is what I meant by what you're not just telling that you are feeling uncomfortable, but you're also showing with those verbs and with those adjectives that how it means, what it means to go through that feeling. And yes, the thoughts that flash through your mind that probably you're going to die, and how embarrassing it was for you to be in that situation. Let's move on to the next paragraph. Condition. The plane was already on the air. I told her to take me down as I was not feeling well. She comforted me and said it would be fine after some time. My co passenger patted my hand and was very kind. A few other passengers were ridiculing me and passed some unwanted comments. My condition worsened as I felt nausea as I was trying desperately to control my uneasiness. I informed the air hostess that I was having difficulty in breathing. So here, slowly and slowly, your the feelings of your uneasiness becomes intense, and you can see that how you can write about these feelings, and the air hostess tries to help you out. The co-passenger tries to help you out. Suddenly, in the next part, suddenly there was a tense and a nerve wracking scenario. I tried hard to keep my eyes open, but dizziness struck my senses. I clung desperately to my seat and cried for my mom. Students, this is what you can term as the climax. Okay, when you feel that everything is over and you are extremely disappointed and devastated that what is going to happen to you now. A 16-year-old boy crying for mom was the last thing that everybody anticipated. I cursed myself for that day. You are extremely embarrassed. You didn't know that why you were behaving like that, but still you couldn't control your feelings. Never had I imagined that my solo travel would be such an ordeal. What is an ordeal? It's a tough experience. Okay. And you were continuously crying. A doctor who was traveling on the same flight came to my rescue. She checked my pulse and looked serious. Was I suffering a heart attack? I lost consciousness and did not remember anything. So, this is the climax where everything goes absolutely without your plan, and you don't remember anything because you have lost consciousness. Let's come to the conclusion. When I opened my eyes, I found myself in the infirmary in the airport hospital. My parents were beside me and I felt better. Infirmary is a place where you are taken care of. Slight medical aid was given to you because you felt unconscious. The doctor informed that fear of flying for the first time landed me up there. What an embarrassment. My head hung in shame and I felt truly embarrassed. My cousins pulled my leg and everyone laughed. I was discharged and went home. The entire family was getting ready to soak themselves in the colors of happiness, joy, and fun for the wedding. As you have mentioned in the beginning, that you were about to travel to Kolkata because of a wedding in the family. Once back home, my mother showered me with rebuke, and my younger sister still taunts me for the ridiculous experience. So you end your essay with a little element of humor. Yes, that is also very important, that try to include some little humor in your writing skill so that the examiner feels a little light-hearted and feels nice after reading your composition. So this was all about your embarrassing experience. I have plotted the story, but of course, if you want to add a little more twist, you can obviously add that. And even I would like to know that what other twist you can add in this narrative composition. Now, the question which I had asked you in the beginning, what is the meaning of the word narrate? Yes, the answer is the narrate word means tell. When you tell something and when you tell about your own experience, that is the meaning of the word narrate. So I hope that this narrative composition has cleared your doubts, and anything more that you want to tell me, please do write it in the comments. And of course, if you have not watched the video of descriptive writing, please go and watch it now, because narrative and descriptive composition are the two most scoring essays in your examinations. Always it's good that you attempt these two. Of course, you can go for reflective and argumentative also, which is going to come in my next video. And if you are a beginner in essay writing, try to stick to descriptive as well as narrative. So that was all. Any doubts, get back to me, and see you soon again in my next video. Bye. Take care.